The stars were quiet. Too quiet. Admiral Vorthan of the Zarketh Empire sat in the command chair aboard his massive flagship, the Eternal Fang. Outside, the panoramic bridge windows stretched the endless black of deep space, scattered with the cold glitter of dying stars. His fleet, 50 warships strong, glided through the dark side of Sector 9, engines muted, weapons charged. The Zarketh banners burned crimson on every hull, marking them as conquerors. Their mission was simple: erase the last trace of humanity. Reports said a small human colony had survived out here, hidden among the ruins of forgotten systems. Impossible, Vorthan thought. Humanity had been wiped out centuries ago, burned away by the combined force of 3 empires. Their worlds turned to glass. Their fleets scattered dust. And yet, the order came from the Emperor himself. No human must remain. So Vorthan obeyed. He was a veteran of 100 campaigns. He had crushed the insectoid Creel, shattered the Othri Dominion, burned the sky cities of the Ilkari. No enemy had ever stood before him for long. But that night, under the silent stars, something began to feel wrong. Admiral, the sensor officer croaked, his blue scales glimmering under the bridge lights. Picking up something ahead. Small signature. Metallic. Vorthan's eyes narrowed. A mine. The officer shook his head. Negative. It's a ship, sir. A low murmur spread through the bridge. A single ship. Out here? Put it on screen, Vorthan ordered. The display shimmered to life, revealing a dark, drifting shape half hidden in the void. The outline was broken, jagged, hull torn in places. Identification. Running analysis, the officer said, claws tapping nervously at the console. Then, after a long pause, so, the design, it's not Zarketh. Not Creel, not Ilkari. It matches no known species in our records. Vorthan leaned forward. No known species. The officer hesitated, then added quietly, there is one partial match. Very old data, human. For a heartbeat, the bridge fell silent. Then, a few officers laughed. Human? Impossible. They are all dead. Ghost readings, perhaps. Even Vorthan chuckled. A deep, gravelly sound that echoed in the stillness. One ship, against 50? Ridiculous. He waved a claw dismissively. Probably debris left from their old war. Humans were stubborn, yes, but not stupid enough to. The words died in his throat. Admiral, the helmsman whispered, voice trembling. The ship is moving. Every eye turned to the main display. The derelict, which had floated lifeless moments ago, was now shifting, slowly rotating toward them. No thrusters, no heat, just movement, smooth, deliberate. Power reading. Vorthan barked. The science officer's frills pulsed pale green. Spiking, sir. Energy levels off the charts. Reactor signature, unknown type. Impossible. Zoom in. The image sharpened. The ship's hull shimmered with metallic patterns that changed and rippled, as if alive. It looked both ancient and new, a relic reborn. Symbols glowed faintly along its sides, human letters half erased by time. Then, for the first time, the Zarketh fleet received a signal. The voice that filled the bridge was not loud. It was calm, cold, measured, and it spoke in perfect Zarketh language. Unidentified fleet. You have entered restricted human space. Turn back now. No one moved. No one spoke. The bridge lights flickered slightly as if the ship itself held its breath. Vorthan's twin hearts pounded in his chest. He swallowed hard, his mandibles twitching. That voice, it shouldn't exist. It was the same voice from the old recordings, from the final war centuries ago. A voice that haunted the nightmares of Zarketh commanders. Captain Elias Ward, the last human fleet commander. But he had died, hadn't he? The communication channel closed. The strange ship continued to drift, unhurried, as though it already knew the outcome of the encounter. So, one of the lieutenants whispered, should we respond? Vorthan's mind raced. Logic said it was impossible. The humans had been exterminated. Their star systems reduced to ash. Their homeworld, Earth, destroyed. And yet, Here it was, a ship bearing their mark, a voice from their ghosts. He forced a laugh, harsh and brittle. A trick, some scavenger using old recordings. Prepare targeting solutions. I'll blast this relic too. Admiral, the sensor officer shouted. It's gone. What do you mean gone? It's no longer on radar. No drive flare, no warp signature. It just vanished. The air on the bridge grew cold. A soft alarm chimed. One of the fleet's destroyers reported hull contact, something small, metallic, attaching to the side. Before the transmission could continue, the channel filled with static. Then a blinding flash appeared in the corner of the view screen. The destroyer exploded in silence, fragments scattering across the void. The human ship reappeared, exactly where it had been before, unmoving, watching. Now, its lights glowed blood red. Vorthen's crew froze. No one dared speak. The Admiral could feel the fear spreading through them like poison. He stared at the human ship, his claws trembling against the armrest. And for the first time in his long career, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. Terror, because deep down, he realized something that chilled his heart to their core. The humans were not gone. They had never been gone. They had been waiting. And now, they had returned. The bridge of the Eternal Fang was silent, except for the hum of cooling systems and the nervous tapping of claws on metal consoles. Admiral Vorthen sat frozen in his command chair, staring at the flickering holoscreen where the human ship had just vanished again. No movement, no signal, only the quiet whisper of the void. But in that silence, every Zarketh officer was thinking the same thing. Humans were supposed to be extinct. Admiral, said Commander Crash, his second-in-command. His voice quivered slightly, though he tried to hide it. Permission to retreat. Vorthen didn't answer right away. His twin hearts pounded inside his chest, and the cold air burned in his lungs. Retreat. The word alone tasted like poison. He was Zarketh, a conqueror, a descendant of warriors who burned worlds for glory. To flee from a single human ship would shame his entire bloodline. But deep inside, under the layers of pride and discipline, something twisted. Fear. Because he had heard the stories. When Vorthen was a young officer, his mentor had told him tales of the galactic war of extinction, the war that nearly ended every known civilization. Back then, humans were new to the stars, small, scattered, fragile. They didn't have fleets like the Zarketh. They didn't have plasma weapons, genetic armor, or hive-born soldiers. What they had was will. Raw, unstoppable will. The kind that made them fight when logic said they should surrender. The kind that made them burn their own worlds rather than let them fall. Vorthen remembered one ancient recording, a broken, static-filled transmission from the war's final year. It showed a human captain aboard a burning ship, half his face scorched, shouting over the comms. You can kill our worlds. You can burn our cities. But you can't kill us all. We are coming for you. The image had haunted him since his academy days. The Zarketh Empire had eventually won, or so they believed. Earth was destroyed. Mars turned to ash. Humanity's colonies wiped clean. Afterward, the galaxy celebrated. The Council of Empires declared the war over. They called it the cleansing. But not everyone believed it was over. Some said that a few human ships had escaped the slaughter, carrying their knowledge, their anger, and their dead. Others whispered that humanity had hidden beyond the galactic rim, far past the black void where even light feared to travel. And sometimes, late at night, frontier colonies reported strange signals, old human codes, ancient Terran frequencies echoing from deep space. Each time, the Empires sent ships to investigate. Each time, the ships vanished. The Zarketh called it the Ghost Zone. And now, Vorthen realized with dread, his fleet was inside it. Admiral, Crash said again, softer this time. This must be a trick, a leftover defense system. The humans could not have survived. Vorthen turned his gaze slowly toward his commander. His eyes burned like molten gold. Commander, he said in a low growl, does that voice sound like a ghost to you? Crash didn't answer. On the display, the damaged human ship still floated, silent and unmoving. No heat, no radiation. Just there. Watching, Vorthin forced himself to breathe. His talons dug into the armrest as his mind raced through old data. What if the stories were true? What if humanity hadn't died, but evolved? They were said to be adaptable, the most adaptable race ever known. They could survive anywhere: deserts, ice worlds, toxic planets. And if they had time, centuries of it, what could they have become? The Admiral clenched his jaw. Re-establish communication. I will speak with it directly. Yes, Admiral. The comms officer hesitated, then opened the channel. Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Vorthin of the Zarketh Empire. Identify yourself. Static filled the room for several seconds. Then came the voice, the same cold, precise tone that made even the air seem to freeze. This is Captain Elias Ward, Terran Defense Command. Those words sent chills down every spine on the bridge. Terran Defense Command, the last human military organization, dissolved more than 300 years ago. It couldn't be real. And yet, it was. Vorthin's mouth went dry. Captain Ward, he said carefully, your species no longer exists. You are an echo, a remnant. Do not resist, and we will make your end swift. For a moment, silence. Then the human's reply came, calm and chilling. You speak as if you're in control, Admiral, but you've already entered our graveyard. The only thing left for you now is the lesson. The signal cut off. A low hum began to fill the bridge. One by one, the Zarketh ship's systems flickered, not failing, but changing. Data streams filled with symbols none of them recognized. The fleet's communication array locked, frequencies hijacked. Admiral, the engineer shouted. Something's inside our system. It's rewriting our codes. Vorthin slammed a clawed fist on the armrest. Shut it down. Now. But it was too late. The ship's main screen came to life again, and a new image filled the air. Earth. Blue. Bright. Whole. Every officer stayed in disbelief. It was impossible. Earth had been destroyed, turned to molten rock. Yet here it was, floating before them like a memory come alive. Then the image zoomed out. A fleet of massive ships orbited the planet. Human ships, but larger than anything the Zarketh had ever seen. Their engines glowed white-hot, their hulls marked with a single emblem, a burning sun over a steel shield. Humanity, rebuilt. Vorthin's voice broke the silence, almost a whisper. By the stars. He felt it then, the same feeling the Zarketh Empire had once inspired in others. Pure faith. The stories were true. Humanity hadn't been destroyed. They had learned. They had waited. And now, they had come back. Not as victims, but as something far greater. Something the galaxy should never have tried to kill. The silence on the bridge of the Eternal Fang was thick enough to choke. Every officer stared at the holographic image that hung in the air, a shining, living Earth. It rotated slowly, impossibly, mocking every history record that said it had been turned to ash 3 centuries ago. Then the image faded into static, leaving only darkness. Admiral Vorthin rose from his chair, his claws flexing. Find the source of that projection, he snapped. Now. The communications officer's frills trembled. Sir, the signal didn't come from outside. It came from within our ship. Vorthin's heart skipped. Impossible. But even as he said it, the ship's lights flickered again. The air felt heavier, as though the vacuum outside was pressing in. And somewhere deep in the hull, a low hum began. Steady, mechanical, alive. The human voice returned, smooth and quiet through the intercom. Admiral Vorthin of the Zarketh Empire. You should not be here. Vorthin bayed his fangs. You're trespassing in our sector, human. You will surrender immediately. The reply came after a long, chilling pause. No, you are trespassing in ours. And then, without warning, the human ship moved. It didn't lurch forward or ignite thrusters. It simply vanished. No light, no sound, no engine flare. Tracking, shouted the helmsman. Where did it go? Before anyone could answer, the ship's sensors screamed with warning tones. A Zarketh destroyer on the fleet's left flank flared bright on the display, then burst apart into fragments. No beam, no missile trail, just destruction. One moment it existed. The next, it was dust. "Admiral," the tactical officer yelled. "We're being hit by something invisible. We can't detect the source. Raise shields. All ships, defensive formation." Vorth embarked. Dozens of vessels moved into position, weapons arming, shields glowing blue-white. The fleet fired blind, streaks of plasma and railgun rounds cutting across the darkness. But they hit nothing. Suddenly, the human ship appeared again, inside their formation. Its hull shimmered with strange energy patterns. The surface was covered in tiny panels that shifted like muscle under skin. Vorthen stared at it in horror. "That's not possible. How did it get through our shields?" Before anyone could react, the comms came alive again. The same human voice, cold and steady. "You were warned." A white pulse rippled outward from the human ship. Every Zarketh ship's systems flickered at once. Lights died. Consoles went dark. Even the hum of the engines faded into silence. For 3 terrifying seconds, 50 warships drifted powerless through space. Then, the scream of alarms. One after another, ships began to detonate. Not from weapons fire, from inside. "Internal overloads," shouted the engineer. "They are hacking our cores. They are making our reactors implode." Vorthen's claws dug deep grooves into the armrest. "Shut them down manually." Too late. Through the viewport, he watched as another of his cruisers folded in half and disintegrated. The blast washed over nearby ships, sending shockwaves through the fleet. When the lights finally stabilized, only 20 Zarketh ships remained. The human vessel hovered motionless among the wreckage, surrounded by clouds of glowing debris. It didn't fire. It didn't move. It just watched. Vorthen forced his voice steady. "Open a channel." The comms crackled. "Channel open, Admiral." He leaned close, mandibles tight with anger. "Human, you think this proves something? You're one ship against an empire. You cannot win." The reply came soft, almost pitying. "You still don't understand. We're not fighting a war. We're sending a message." Before Vorthen could respond, the human ship projected something into the void, a holographic wave that rippled across the debris field. The image showed countless other human vessels, huge ones, far beyond the scale of anything the Zarketh had built. City-sized dreadnoughts, star-shaped carriers, ships orbiting around artificial suns. Behind them floated something even larger, a ring around a star, a structure glowing with power. "We've watched," the voice continued. "We've seen the wars, the empires, the cruelty. We learned from all of you. We built what you feared most, unity." The projection faded, and silence filled the bridge once more. Vorthen felt cold all over. He finally understood what that meant. Humanity hadn't rebuilt for revenge. They had rebuilt for domination. The tactical officer whispered, "Admiral, what are your orders?" Vorthen stayed at the screen. His pride fought with his instincts. Every Zarketh tradition screamed for vengeance, to strike, to destroy, to die with honor. But every survival instinct in his body screamed louder. He took a long breath. "Pull back the fleet. Now." Crash looked at him, shocked. "Retreat? Admiral." Vorthen's golden eyes flared. "Do it. That's not an enemy. That's a nightmare." The fleet began to turn, engines roaring back to life. One by one, the surviving ships entered warp sequence. As the Eternal Fang prepared to jump, Vorthen looked one last time at the human vessel. It floated quietly in the darkness, surrounded by the wrecks it had created, untouched, unbothered. Then, through the static of the comms, came one final transmission, not in Zarketh, but in Old Galactic Standard. "This was your warning. Stay away from human space." The transmission ended. The human ship's lights dimmed, and then it vanished, just like before, slipping back into the shadows between stars. For several long moments, Vorthen sat in silence as the warp drive charged. Then he spoke softly to himself, voice low and hollow. "The ghosts are real, and they remember." The stars stretched into lines, and the Zarketh fleet fled into the dark. Behind them, only debris remained, and a single human vessel drifting silently through the void, watching, waiting. Because this was only the beginning. Humanity had just announced its return. The void swallowed the Zarketh fleet as they jumped into hyperspace. Blue-white tunnels of light stretched endlessly around them, twisting and pulsing as the Eternal Fang led the survivors away from Sector 9. Admiral Vorthen sat motionless in his command chair, eyes fixed on the holographic projection of their course. Behind him, the crew whispered in frightened tones. They had faced death before. They had fought monstrous species, destroyed civilizations, burned planets. But never had they faced something like that. One ship, one human, and 50 Zarketh warships reduced to debris. The silence on the bridge was broken by the low hum of the warp drives. Everything looked stable, for now. "Admiral," said Commander Crash, his voice low, "we've lost contact with 12 ships. They didn't make the jump." Vorthen didn't look up. "Destroyed?" "Unknown, sir. They were right behind us before we entered hyperspace. Then gone. No trace." Vorthen's claws tightened on the armrest. He didn't believe in ghosts, not until tonight. A tremor ran through the deck. The crew jolted upright as lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. "What was that?" barked Vorthen. "Micro-fluctuation in the warp corridor," the engineer said quickly. "Probably debris interference." Vorthen didn't respond, because deep down, he already knew it wasn't debris. He could feel it, the same cold, crawling sensation that had filled the bridge before the human ship attacked. It was out there, somewhere in the tunnel of light, keeping pace with them. "Sir," whispered the helmsman, "I think we're being followed." The words hit the bridge like a thunderclap. "What did you say?" "Something's behind us, Admiral. No clear readings, but the sensors keep spiking. It's matching our velocity exactly." Vorthen stood, his heart's pounding. "Visuals, now." The holoscreen flickered. Static washed across it. Then a faint shadow appeared, a dark outline following their fleet through the blinding corridors of hyperspace. The same shape, the same size, the same impossible silence. The human ship. "No!" Crash shouted, slamming a fist into the console. "That's impossible. It can't travel this fast without warp drives." Vorthen didn't answer. He watched the image, claws trembling slightly. The human vessel wasn't gaining, wasn't retreating. It simply stayed behind them, always at the same distance, like a predator watching its prey. Then, the comms crackled. "Admiral Vorthen," the voice said softly, "running will not save you." Every sound in the bridge died. Vorthen's mandibles quivered. "How are you doing this?" he hissed. No response. Just a faint, cold laughter that faded into static. Moments later, 3 ships at the back of the formation disappeared from the fleet tracker. No explosions, no radiation spikes. They simply vanished. "Drop us out of hyperspace," Vorthen roared. "Now!" The helmsman obeyed, pulling the emergency switch. The stars snapped back into view with a violent jolt. The fleet tumbled into normal space, scattered and disoriented. Alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple systems offline. Navigation scrambled. The crew scrambled to restore control. Vorthen stood, scanning the empty void. "Where are we?" "Unknown, sir." The jump was cut short. "We might be several sectors off course." "Good," he muttered. "Better lost than dead." But as the sensors cleared, his blood ran cold. Because the human ship was there, waiting for them. It floated just a few thousand kilometers away, silent as ever. Its surface pulsed faintly with blue light, like a beating heart. No weapons visible. No communication. Just watching. Crash whispered, "How did it get here first?" No one answered. No one could. Then, a flicker of light appeared between the human ship and the Zarketh fleet, a single transmission beam. "Incoming message," the comms officer said, voice trembling. "Put it through," Vorthen ordered. The image that appeared wasn't a person. It was a recording, grainy, distorted, but unmistakable. A human soldier, battered and bleeding, standing amid smoke and fire. His voice was faint but steady. "We don't start wars, but we finish them." The recording ended. Then the human ship vanished, again. This time, It didn't return. For a long moment, no one moved. The only sound was the soft hiss of the ship's ventilation system and the low, uneven breathing of terrified soldiers. Crash finally spoke. "Admiral, what now?" Vorthin stayed at the space where the human vessel had been. His golden eyes reflected the fading light of distant stars. "Now," he said slowly, "we go home." The fleet limped back toward Zarketh space, broken and silent. No one spoke of what they had seen. No one dared to. But fear travels faster than light. By the time the Eternal Fang reached the nearest military outpost, the rumors had already spread. Whispers in the corridors, stories in the mess halls, a ghost ship that destroyed half a fleet, a human voice from the dark, and one name, repeated again and again in hushed tones. Captain Elias Ward. High Command tried to silence the reports. They called it a malfunction, a hallucination, a gravitational anomaly. But soldiers talk, and soon, the story reached other empires. The Ilkari called it the Returners. The Creel named them the Burned. The human legends, reborn, alive, unstoppable. And though most denied it, deep down, every commander, every emperor, every warlord in the galaxy felt it, the same creeping dread that Vorthin felt that night. Because if one human ship could destroy a fleet, how many more were waiting in the dark? In the command chamber of the Eternal Fang, Vorthin stood alone, staring into the stars. His reflection shimmered faintly against the glass. He whispered to himself, almost a prayer. They were never gone, only sleeping. And in the endless silence of space, something answered, not with words, but with a distant echo. A pulse of energy, a flicker of light, like a heartbeat. Humanity's heartbeat. Waiting, watching, ready. The Zarketh homeworld glowed beneath a blood-red sun. Towers of black stone stretched into the clouds, and fleets of warships drifted like shadows across the upper atmosphere. It was a world built on conquest. Every mountain held a fortress. Every city echoed with a roar of factories. For 10,000 years, the Zarketh Empire had known only one direction, outward. But now, for the first time in its long history, fear had returned home. Admiral Vorthin stood before the Imperial Council, his armor scarred, his face drawn and weary. 50 chairs surrounded the grand chamber, each filled with a general, scientist, or noble. Their eyes burned with suspicion. The High Speaker's voice was sharp and cold. "You abandoned your mission. You lost 30 ships, and you returned with tales of ghosts." Vorthin bowed his head slightly. "Not ghosts, High Speaker. Humans." The chamber filled with laughter, harsh, metallic echoes that bounced off the stone walls. "Humans," one counselor sneered. "The same creatures who begged for mercy 3 centuries ago. You expect us to believe that one of their ships destroyed half your fleet." Vorthin's claws scraped the floor. "I saw it with my own eyes. They have technology beyond ours. They can move without warp drives. They—" "Enough," the High Speaker snapped. "You disgrace your rank with superstition. You failed, Admiral. Admit it." Vorthin's mandibles twitched. "I failed nothing. The humans warned us to leave their space. We ignored them and paid the price." The chamber fell silent again. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the speaker leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. "Then go back, Vorthin. Find this human ship. Destroy it. Prove to us, and to yourself, that your fear is unfounded." Vorthin stayed up at the council's cold faces. He wanted to argue, to refuse. Every instinct told him not to return. But Zarketh honor was cruel. Refusal meant disgrace. Disgrace meant death. He straightened his spine. "As you command." The speaker smiled faintly. "Take your fleet, Admiral. And this time, do not come back until it's done." Hours later, the Eternal Fang rose once more from the docks of the homeworld, its hull still scorched from the last encounter. Behind it, 20 new ships followed, fast, powerful, bristling with weapons. On the bridge, Commander Crash approached cautiously. "Sir, are we truly going back?" Vorthin didn't turn to face him. His gaze was locked on the void ahead. "We are Zarketh, Commander. We do not run." Crash hesitated. With respect, sir, running may be the only way to live. Vorthin's mandibles clicked in irritation. They humiliated us. They made us flee like hatchlings. I will not allow that story to spread. Crash said nothing more. He knew arguing was useless. Pride was stronger than fear, at least for now. Days passed as the fleet traveled back through the stars, deeper into the silent reaches of Sector 9. The region was quiet. Too quiet. Scanners showed no life signs, no signals, not even the faint hum of cosmic radiation. It was as though the entire sector had been emptied. "Admiral," said the sensor officer one morning, "there's something strange. We're detecting faint metallic traces, thousands of them, spread across the region." "Debris?" "Yes, sir, but it's arranged in formation, like wrecks." Vorthin's heart sank. He had heard of graveyard fleets, remnants of old battles, but this was something different. The fragments floated in perfect alignment, forming a silent wall of twisted metal. As they approached, the lights of their ships reflected off the broken hulls. Zarketh warships. Hundreds of them. Not his. Older, ancient, ships that had gone missing centuries ago during the human war. Crash whispered, "By the stars, what is this place?" Vorthin's voice was barely a whisper, a warning. Then, as the fleet moved closer, every console on the bridge flickered. The lights dimmed. A message appeared on the main screen, white letters against black. "You were told not to return." A chill spread through the crew. Vorthin stood tall, trying to mask the fear in his chest. "Charge all weapons. Prepare to fire." "But, Admiral." "Do it." The fleet armed itself, plasma cannons glowing bright as suns. The debris field trembled. Slowly, pieces of wreckage began to move, twisting, aligning, forming shapes. Then they saw it. A human ship emerging from the shadows. The same one. Intact. Silent. Waiting. Vorthin glared at it. "This ends now," he growled. "Fire all weapons." The void erupted in light. Beams and missiles streaked through space, converging on the lone human vessel. The explosions were blinding. When the smoke cleared, the ship was still there, untouched. Then, the Zarketh fleet systems died all at once. Every light, every engine, every screen. Total silence. The voice returned, calm and merciless. "You were warned once. You did not listen." Vorthin's heart hammered as he shouted, "What are you?" The answer came after a long, terrible pause. "The children of Earth. And your reckoning." The human ship extended its strange, glowing panels. A pulse of white light swept across the Zarketh fleet. Not an explosion, but something deeper. Every weapon froze. Every reactor shut down. And then, one by one, the Zarketh ships began to drift, powerless, defeated, alive only by mercy. Vorthin stayed in horror. His fleet, his empire's pride, reduced to helpless shadows. He sank slowly into his chair, whispering to himself, "They could have destroyed us, but they didn't." He didn't understand why. Not yet. But as the human ship turned and disappeared into the darkness once more, he realized something even worse than defeat. The humans didn't hate them. They didn't need to. They had evolved past hate, and that made them unstoppable. The void was silent, a silence so deep it pressed against the skin, the kind of silence that follows destruction, not peace. Admiral Vorthin sat in his darkened command chair, surrounded by the flickering red lights of emergency systems. His ship, the Eternal Fang, floated helplessly among the crippled remains of his fleet. Dozens of Zarketh warships drifted around him, powerless, their engines dead, their weapons cold. Some spun slowly, like corpses caught in a cosmic current. No one spoke. No one dared. The human ship hung before them, motionless. It was smaller than any of their vessels, yet it felt immense. Its presence was like gravity itself. Unseen, inescapable, absolute. Vorthin's voice cracked as he broke the silence. "Status report." His crew scrambled. "Power, still offline. Admiral. Backup systems unresponsive. We're not detecting any damage. It's as if they've turned us off." Vorthen stayed at the motionless screens. Turned us off. Completely, sir. Even our life support is being maintained by them. The Admiral froze. The humans were controlling their systems, keeping them alive. It wasn't a victory. It was mercy. Then, without warning, the human ship began to move. Not through engines or thrust. It simply glided, impossibly smooth, across the wreckage. Every ship in the Zarketh fleet turned to follow, drawn like metal shavings to a magnet. On the bridge, the main screen flickered once more, and a human face appeared. Captain Elias Ward. The same calm expression, the same voice that had haunted Vorthen's dreams. Admiral Vorthen of the Zarketh Empire, Ward said softly, "You wanted to understand. Watch, then." The stars outside the viewport began to twist. The void shimmered like liquid glass. And then, impossibly, the stars changed, rearranging themselves into new constellations, new colors. What is this?" Crash whispered. "Are we moving?" Vorthen's claws dug into the armrest. "No, the stars are." The view expanded, zooming outward faster than light. Nebulas flashed by like sparks. Entire galaxies passed in seconds. Then it stopped. Before them stretched a vast structure, too massive to comprehend. A ring of light, wider than any orbit, encircling a white star. Miles upon miles of metallic continents gleamed under its glow. Cities covered the inner surface, pulsing with golden energy. Ships moved between them like cells in a living organism. A Dyson ring. Not theory, not myth. Real. The bridge fell silent. Even the air seemed to freeze. Vorthen whispered, "Impossible." Ward's voice echoed through the ship. "Humanity doesn't believe in impossible anymore." The Admiral could hardly breathe. "You built this? Around a star?" "We built many," Ward replied. "Each one a cradle for what we became." The image shifted again. They saw vast orbital shipyards stretching across systems, machines the size of moons assembling fleets of silent, black vessels. "When your kind burned our world," Ward continued, "we left. We hid in the dark between galaxies. We learned. We changed. We evolved beyond war, beyond the need for it." Vorthen's mandibles trembled. "Then why attack us? Why destroy my fleet?" Ward's gaze hardened. "We didn't destroy you, Admiral. We stopped you. There's a difference." The image zoomed closer to one of the ring's cities. Sleek towers rising above silver oceans, drones weaving through air thick with auroras. "We remember what the galaxy was before your empire's rise," Ward said quietly. "We remember the screams of 1,000 worlds. And we remember that mercy, once given, must also be defended." Vorthen's eyes widened. "You think mercy makes you strong?" Ward smiled faintly. "It makes us human." The bridge filled with static, and the images vanished. The view of the Dyson ring dissolved, replaced once again by the dark expanse of Sector 9. But something had changed. The stars looked different now. Colder, older. Time, Vorthen realized, had shifted. He turned to his navigator. "How long were we in that vision?" The navigator hesitated. "Sensors show the local date is 1,028 years later than when we left." The bridge fell silent again. They hadn't seen a vision. They had been taken there. And when returned, over a millennium had passed. Ward's voice came one last time, soft and distant, as though from across time itself. "We do not seek vengeance, Admiral. We seek peace. But peace requires memory. Go home. Tell them what you saw. Tell them humanity still watches." Then the signal cut off. The human ship turned slowly and faded into darkness, leaving only the faint shimmer of disturbed starlight behind. Moments later, power returned to every Zarketh system. Lights flickered on. Engines roared back to life. But none of it mattered. Every soul aboard the Eternal Fang sat frozen, staring into the empty void where the humans had vanished. Vorthen rose from his chair, his voice low, trembling. "They didn't destroy us, because they didn't need to." Crash turned to him, wide-eyed. "Admiral, what do we do now?" Vorthen looked out into the stars. For the first time in his life, he felt small. "We go home," he said quietly, "and we pray that they never come back." The fleet turned slowly, engines burning weakly against the endless dark. Behind them, Sector 9 fell silent once more, a graveyard of wrecks and whispers. And somewhere, far beyond their reach, the children of Earth watched, patient, unseen, eternal.